you recently felt shocked, surprised, amazed, had your world rocked by some new truth or piece of information just totally shattered your old paradigm of what you thought the world was? Have you recently taken the red pill?
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So it was around 2008 when I had a very similar experience. Suddenly I started looking at the world through a different lens. And all the old paradigms that I had about what the world was and how it worked and who these people were that were, telling us how to live our lives, suddenly all of that changed. And I started to question the very fabric of reality that I had accepted that made up the entire world around me. Awakening to an unrealized truth or having a paradigm shattered like that can be a difficult process. Because if you think about it, our structure, our belief of how the world works, it's kind of like an operating system. And when you have an operating system, let's use Windows 95 as an example. You say you have Windows 95. If you bring in a new piece of information that's for a different operating system, it's not made to work inside Windows 95. And so in order to accept that new piece of information, the old operating system needs to go through an entire upgrade. Because that one piece of information impacts or corrupts every other piece of the puzzle. And so this is why it's so difficult for most people to accept information that is outside of their accepted reality. So if you have gone through an awakening recently, where you looked outside, say, at the government and you saw that it wasn't what you thought it was, or the media and realized that they've been lying for a long time, or the educational system, or the healthcare system, in your own personal journey of healing yourself, whatever realm you have just entered into, where suddenly you have realized that the old world that you thought you knew was a lie, and now you are awake to a new world, we're going to talk about what comes after you go through that process. And before we get into it, guys, please hit that thumbs up button if you appreciate this video, subscribe if you are not already, and share this video if you feel like the information is worthwhile or if you know somebody that it may benefit. Let's get into it. So we're going to talk about some ancient philosophy about how to maintain center as we move through this paradigm expansion, this expanding consciousness. We're going to talk about discovering your purpose, and we're going to talk about the continued learning and growth required in order to accelerate and maintain this awakening process and what it can do for you in the long run. So, first off, there's this Zen quote that says, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." And I think that that's a really neat statement. Because, when we awaken to a world that is outside of our old paradigm, and perhaps this sparks this deep desire and passion in learning and trying to understand the world around us, we can get into some pretty fantastical materials that talk about a lot of things that really make living our normal everyday lives seem tremendously mundane and boring. It can go to the point where we want to escape, whether that's into fiction books or drugs or alcohol. It's hard to come back and say that this is the life that I have to live when there is so much going on outside that we want to be a part of. This old statement of before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, and after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, it's applicable here. Because after we awaken to all of this, we need to know, how do we continue living despite everything outside? I remember when I first started learning about secret space programs and the possibility that extraterrestrials have been involved with our government and our world for a very long time. reading about ancient history and seeing these magnificent structures that were built, and the geometry behind a lot of those structures, and how the accepted theories of how they've been built, like with copper chisels and stones and rolling them across logs, we know that isn't true for a lot of the ancient structures. I wanted to go see those. I wanted to tour them. I wanted to get close. I wanted to be one of the people that was discovering these new places and finding these new discoveries. And the reality is that life demands from us our attention. And there is a certain level of detachment that we begin to have because of an internal frustration that this is all there is. Is this really all there is? And we can look at this as a difficult aspect of the awakening process, or we could say it is a seed. It's a seed, and it's there for us in order to serve us in a certain way. Let's talk about that seed. Without that seed of discontent for what is, we would accept where we were. The seed of discontent is there as like a spur in our side to get us moving, to continue growing, to continue searching, to maybe push us to the point where we will take the action necessary in order to get out there and do something about it. Most people don't take action or make change inside of their lives until it's too painful, until life is just so painful that they have to change. And so this is our opportunity to see that little bit of a glimmer of discomfort and say, I'm going to do something about it right now. What we can do about it right now is to understand that in order to be okay with the mundane aspects of life, we have to seek how to be at peace with ourselves. And to be at peace with ourselves, it takes time and it takes acceptance. And acceptance comes from being and living within the present moment. That means not projecting our awareness and consciousness into the past, looking at what happened, what should have been, what could have been, or projecting our consciousness and awareness into the future as to what's coming, what we should be doing, where we should be, how something's going to work out, what's going to happen, but staying exactly right where we are. And so focusing on existing right now. So I was reading Eckhart Tolle not too long ago, and there was a question inside of his book that was posed to help bring a person into the very present moment. And this is a question that you can ask yourself at any point in time if you are feeling stress, if you are feeling anxiety, if you are feeling depression. And that is, what am I lacking in this moment right now? And in this moment, really, you may be feeling a little bit hungry, but in this moment, in this exact present moment, you're okay without that food. In this moment. It's extremely powerful. And there are entire books wrote about that, like Ram Dass, Be Here Now. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the next big part of this, is that after awakening, what comes after awakening is discovering your purpose. An awakening, we can look at it as it's an accident, or we can say that there's a deeper meaning in that there's a purpose behind awakening. So discovering your purpose is about waking up to your reason for being. And what that does is every morning that you get out of bed, if you know that you have purpose, if you understand what your purpose is, you'll feel motivated to keep moving. You'll feel motivated to continue digging. And so how we discover our purpose is by diving into questions. Questions reveal the truth about ourselves to ourselves. Finding our purpose is really about self-discovery. It's about knowing thyself. So there are 3 paths to discovering that. And the first one, like I just said, it's questions and answering. It's asking ourselves those specific, deep questions. Like, what is it that gives me joy? What is it that I enjoy doing? What is it that pisses me off? When we can find the things that really make us angry, now we find that thing that's worth dying for, and we decide to live for it. The next major portion of discovering our purpose is through contemplation and solitude. Getting out in nature, walking, being quiet, learning how to be quiet and be with ourselves. The next one is meditation. And it's getting silent, shutting down the monkey mind, and getting in touch with that awareness or that consciousness behind the chattering voice, the chattering mind. And then what we were talking about inside of the first one, and that's just learning how to keep ourselves in that present moment. It's an art, it's a practice. It takes some people an entire lifetime to learn how to do that. And it's still extremely beneficial. It's very worthwhile to make that a focus inside of our life. Living within the present moment. After awakening to some grand thing, we may want to go out and change the world. And that's wonderful. That's powerful. We should do that. And at the same time, the only way to make an impact in the world outside is to first make an impact within. We have to first be the kind of people that are worth leading others. Like, we have to build up our own internal self-worth so that we are capable of doing it. Maybe you're already at that point. Maybe you've already done that. Maybe there's some work to do. But the focus is not to go outside and try to awaken everybody else. The focus is to go within. To go within and become centered and focused. If you think about it, it could be like when you have a flashlight and you have it screwed out, so that the pattern of the light is as large as you possibly can. It illuminates a lot of stuff. But what we want to do is we want to bring that down so it's a laser beam. It's intense, it's focused. It can make a serious impact in the space that it's trying to occupy. After we start getting clear, we're working on discovering our purpose, the next step is to continue growing and learning. In whatever area your passion lies, whether that is in healthcare, the corruption in healthcare, whether that's in ancient history or technology or extraterrestrials or spirituality or consciousness, wherever your passion lies, wherever you find yourself drawn, dive deep into that arena. Dive deep into that area. We are in desperate need of people who have awakened, who can develop serious skills, serious specialty, and wisdom inside of specific areas to bring that knowledge to people. If you can teach people how to discover their own consciousness or how to build some sort of machine that creates free energy, or to deeply understand the history behind one of the temples inside of Mexico, that can have a profound impact on our future and where we're at right now. A lot of times after awakening, we're seeking an adventure. We're seeking something big to come in from the life around us. But what if it was enough to accept that this life that you are living now was the lesson, it was the adventure, that where you are at this point is the challenge to be overcome. It is a worthwhile focus to not seek something else, but to live the life that you are living at this point. And awakening is just a part of that process. It's like an opening of a flower, the blossoming of something. It adds a flavor and a power to your life that will guide you forever. Once a mind opens and expands, it never closes again. It never returns to the previous consciousness that it once inhabited. So we talked about before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. That in order to be okay with the mundane, we must find that present moment and do everything we can to keep our consciousness and to reside within now. We talked about discovering purpose through asking questions, contemplation and pondering in solitude, to get still with meditation, and to again focus on living in that present moment, and to continue learning and growing and developing your passion and your interest and focusing on something and becoming very proficient in that thing, that knowledge, that skill, that trade, whatever it is that lights you up. After awakening, life takes on a new dimension. We realize that we're not just here to serve ourselves, but to know ourselves, to serve others. There's more to this life than just simply earthly pleasure. Making that money, getting that boat, having those experiences. While they're all wonderful and they should be encouraged and embraced, there is more to life than that. We realize that. And then the next neat thing about awakening is that we discover a greater level of freedom. As the old paradigms come down and new ones are built, we're able to rebuild how we view the world, how we see the world, who we are inside of the world, and how we operate. And when we're doing that, we discover that we're not subject to the same small laws that were placed on us as children. The truth about awakening is that it comes with difficulty. As those paradigms are broken down and we need to grow, we're faced with our limitations. We're faced with the traumas that were impacted us as children and how to heal ourselves. Trauma is something that stays within our subconscious mind. Up until the age of 7, our subconscious minds are wide open like a sponge. We're pulling in everything. And how we interpret the world, what's important to us, how we view certain experiences. And that's why you can have two different people who witness the same accident or the same conversation, and each person will take something different away from that conversation because of the paradigms and perspectives that they have. And so when we go through this process of awakening, those paradigms and perspectives that are holding us back from becoming the most powerful versions of ourselves suddenly get presented. They're right in front of our face, and we must learn how to work through those. And that's part of the process of getting to know thyself. And if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check out a lot of my other videos, because I talk about this extensively, especially in a lot of my interviews with some of the healers and people who work on that level. Now, one thing that I want to throw out there before we close this is that if you are on the path of awakening and you are looking for new information to awaken your inner self, to expand your knowledge of anything to do with quantum physics, spirituality, ancient history, UFOs, healing the self through, inner self or the body, be sure to check out Gaia. They have an expansive library of information on how to grow and how to learn and how to expand consciousness and everything in the alternative media world. Their library is massive. Be sure to grab the link down below inside of the description. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and rise unconquered.
Are you ready for Gaia?
How can we be resilient in a world that's growing more volatile by the day? How can we thrive?
Don't buy into the fear. It's about waking up.
Explore the world's largest library of conscious media with thousands of films and original programs.
People all over the planet are waking up.
Gaia is ready for you.
We can adapt our lifestyle to this time of extremes.
For the seekers.
Inside, he was able to detect the fetus of some creature. It is clear by scientists that it's something different. It is not human.
The wanderers.
In ancient times, the Atlanteans were said to have an advanced technology and power supply based on crystals.
The dreamers.
My dream is to help people understand how the universe operates so that each person can find their own unique purpose within the cosmic plan.
And the doers.
Thoughts can have an effect on your brain, your body, and your life. And I'm going to show you how to rewire your mind, your heart, and your body.
For those who dare to travel their own path.
Our potential to access the supermind is no longer simply theoretical. How can we hack our history to change our future?
We are meant to learn again and again in this life that truth does indeed set us free.
Now we are proposing a new beginning, a new history for human beings.